I watched a new show on Netflix. I can't say it's great, but it's good.
Tell me about it.
It's important, and it's very important to be, quite honestly. It's called Unbelievable. I love the show.
I started watching that show. Is it Dusty with the rape victim?
Okay, yes. I love this show because it's something that's pervasive in society today as we speak. So it gives light, because generally when we have shows on let's say a serial killer, generally the star or the theme of the show is surrounding the suspect, right? Mm-hmm. Generally we don't spend time culturing the victims. So this entire season was, I think it's a miniseries. This entire season was surrounding the victims and what happens with the victims mentally, psychologically, physically. Very important show. I hope it gets the credit and the eyes it deserves.
It's been out for a minute. I'd say it's been out for at least a couple of months now.
Okay, yeah. I think there was someone that was an Emmy nominated person. I'm thinking it was one actor from there. Maybe it's another show I was reading. I was reading the bio. Very important. I can get into it real quick, but I'll tell you about the importance of it in terms of rape victims. So the show is called Unbelievable, and it follows one person in particular, the main character of the show. I forget her name, Mary, I believe, and she was apparently raped.
Yeah.
So this happens with a lot of people that have been raped. One, they can undergo some type of repression of memory. So repression is generally it's an unconscious act. Your mind is doing it, so to speak, to help you psychologically from torment, so to speak. Let's put it in layman's terms. Mm-hmm. And that's opposite of suppression. Suppression is if you can physically do it, you're physically or unconsciously suppressing that idea so you can forget it, that thought or memory so you can forget it. Most likely it will be surrounded a trauma. So yeah, so in this case, the victim, the main character, Mary, she was apparently raped, and then after undergoing questioning, the police officers really didn't believe her. Even her foster mom didn't believe her. A lot of victims of rape undergo this particular scenario as well. We victim shame by not believing in them, and maybe castigating them, because throughout in the middle of the season, she was actually charged with a crime of, I guess, lying. I forget the exact terminology, but she was essentially found out she was lying because she actually took back her statements that she was raped, because that thought was repressed. That trauma was repressed. So, and this happens in real life. So the repression of that trauma makes her feel like maybe it didn't really happen. Maybe it was all of my imagination, or maybe I was dreaming. It happens a lot of time with patients or anyone that undergoes trauma. She didn't really know if it actually happened. Imagine living in that whirlwind where you feel like it happened, but you don't really know that it happened. But in actuality, it did happen. Imagine that turmoil. And then imagine everyone looking down on you, losing your friends. They're calling you a fake accuser. Obviously, the cops are looking down. Your foster parents don't believe you. Imagine living in that turmoil. So I love it because they shed light on the victims. It's important to shed light on these victims because there's
not a lot of representation.
Literally, people suffering. There's no representation, and people are suffering through it as we speak. I'm pretty sure it connected with so many people. That show, important show, because it's important so we can for that representation we can see the impact it has from their point of view. It's hard to actually put yourself in people's shoes that you haven't really experienced the things that they've experienced. So we can actually go through the whirlwind with her.
Right. Yeah.
I won't break down the entire show, but I just leave it at that. Very important show. important for this generation. 1000%. We need more shows like this that focuses on the victims and not just glorifies the suspects.
There's a show called 13 Reasons Why. I think they made an attempt to do the same thing in a more.
I was going to watch that show
in a more poppy hip way.
Right. That's why I didn't see it. It was too gimmicky for me, based on what I heard from people. It seemed a little too gimmicky. That's why I couldn't watch it. This was more aligned with reality.
Right. Yeah. So, and like I said, I think this is exactly what 13 Reasons Why attempted to do, but in a more entertaining is not the word. In a way that's more appealing to this generation.
Yeah. In a fantasy realm, appealing to them is for sure trying to capture more viewers by doing that.
Definitely.
Yeah. That gimmick. That's why I couldn't watch it. It was too gimmicky for me. By listening to different accounts from people.
But yeah, even with Unbelievable, I began watching it. I don't know if I lost interest or what the situation was. I just stopped watching it. But I do vaguely remember some of the things that you mentioned, where she went back to the police officers. In fact, in the show, it seemed like the police officers kind of coerced her into a corner to say that it didn't really happen.
It's important. That's why I put my psychological brain on right when I started watching it. Once I saw the direction the show was going on, because I didn't know what the show was about, to be honest. I was looking for a show, and I saw, Emmy Award nominated. Let me see what this is about. Once I saw this is the route they were taking it, I immediately turned my psychological brain on. And I thought, from a doctor's standpoint, of what patients actually go through.
How many total episodes were there?
Actually go through. Maybe eight or so. Yeah, I immediately switched that side of my brain on, and I immediately understood everything I see with patients in terms of reading literature and seeing the things they actually go through, and seeing it on screen from the screenwriter's perspective and the psychological perspective. I like that. Pretty sure they got a lot of counseling in on what patients go through, because obviously they had firsthand knowledge.
Yeah. That's one thing I really appreciate from a movie, documentary, any type of piece of art, where if they're trying to portray or represent a certain person, a group, or anything like that. I really appreciate when they do their homework and they do their due diligence in trying to give an authentic feel.
Get their facts in
right. Just make everything authentic.
Yeah. It can be obviously fun to watch, but it's informative in the same sense. It's enlightening. Because people go through these things. It's enlightening for other people to understand it and build more an appreciation for what people go through in life.
And it's also if in a situation like this, in this topic, it's a slap in the face to kind of to half-ass it, or to make it seem a little fantasy, like more like a fantasy type of story.
I would feel, I didn't watch it. I didn't watch the show, but I would feel very disrespected if I was a victim of, was it regarding someone that was bullied? 13 Reasons Why was bullied and killed themselves, something like that.
They were. I don't know if you're gonna watch it, but spoiler: she was bullied and she was actually raped as well.
Okay, yeah. So I would feel very disrespected if you put that gimmick with that cause.
Yeah.
Don't put this fantasy world in a serious topic. Then again, I didn't see it. I could be wrong.